Here's a real-life, true, spooky Halloween story from the horse's mouth for you. Well, one of the two horses that witnessed this paranormal experience. I was 11, and my beat buddy next-door neighbor Dale was about to turn 12. Dale and I were way into the comic book hero rock band Kiss. For this was the year 1977, and Kiss was larger and cooler than life to us. We would daydream about being in a band like them someday. When Halloween came around the corner, Dale and I were trying to figure out which Kiss member we wanted to be. It was fate that we both surprised each other later after school on Halloween by dressing as the same Catman who was the drummer, but it didn't matter, we were going out without supervision to walk through the streets. In back streets of town to trick or treat, my parents were quite strict on knowing where I was and how long I could be there. After doing some posing for my mom's Super 8 video camera, Dale and I took off down the road and hightailed it through the wooded part of the neighborhood to a neighbor who would get booze for Dale, which he usually bought a pint of citrus schnapps or a bottle of Boone's farm wine. I myself wasn't a drinker at that age and just started inhaling a little marijuana when Dale would get it. We took some swigs off the schnapps, and then as we got down the unlit part of our dead-end street, he pulls out a joint. We smoked it and went trick or treating down one side of our long street and back down the other side. Not far from our house are some unlit side streets that we decided to hit before we called it a night. As we walked up to this one-level, tiny, modest brick house with a huge willow tree in the front, we both looked at each other as we walked to the screen door. It was lit with yellow lighting, and we saw through the living room into the kitchen. As we peered into the house, we saw two long female legs crossed behind the entryway to the kitchen. I remember them being sort of sexy-looking and Dale, and I immediately looked at each other through our black cat makeup. We thought, "Ha! It's a sexy woman." As we turned to look back into the house, the woman surprised the hell out of us by already being at the door. She had a dark green house coat on, and I remember that her skin didn't seem like the typical color to me, and her face was unremarkable, but she had a weird grin as she pulled 2 apples out from behind the door, and we were spooked but were polite and said thank you and went on our way. Dale and I were definitely creeped out and slightly aroused by what just happened, and I remember us looking at each other as we threw our poison apples down the street. We were telling our buddies at school about the little house with the willow tree and how sexy the lady was acting towards us, and how she creeped us out by appearing at her door plus giving us apples to boot. I think we were in disbelief ourselves, because a week or 2 later we decided to go back to that woman's house in the daytime to see what it was all about. We walked nervously through the wooded area of the neighborhood to get to the street the witch, which was what we nicknamed her, lived on. When we got to the block where the house was, we were in utter shock and horror to realize that there was not one single level house on that block, or even one willow tree within miles. You could say I was hallucinating, because I drank and smoke and have a wild imagination, and I might agree with you. But Dale witnessed the same damned thing, and it really happened to us.